We in MS4P encourage all our supporters and detractors to practice nonviolent communication. You might be asking yourself, what is this ideologically loaded term, and why should I accept it? Nonviolent communication involves using I statements to state observable facts dispassionately, identify your emotional response to those facts, explain how your emotional response connects to a generalizable need, and make a specific, positive, actionable request. These basic principles, while not above critique, will help you identify who supports the resolution and who opposes it, while minimizing your own risk. We don't want you to take a principled stand and have a series of potentially vicious and alienating arguments with our colleagues. We do want you to show your support for the resolution steadfastly and with courage. And we want all our supporters to demonstrate that we can't be intimidated into silence by talking about Palestine and the resolution. 2 important points. It is never necessary to pull out your phone camera and start filming. In this climate, it's the equivalent of pulling out a knife. Remember, critics of Israel are aggressively persecuted in America today, and your video might get someone fired, deported, or harassed by right-wing extremists. If you do see someone filming, approach them and politely but firmly ask them to stop. Disrupt the lens if necessary. Put yourself between the camera and its subject. This keeps us all safe. If they persist in filming, call hotel security and file a grievance against them using SEM's official process. It's safest to approach these conversations with a fellow sympathizer and in a small group setting, rather than as a one-on-one with someone you don't know well. If you see someone broach the subject, go over and support them, even if you don't know the people involved yourself. Some of you may have experience with electoral campaigns or union organizing. When seeking to win a vote, supporters and opponents are identified by a number. 1 indicates a definite yes vote. If you talk to a 1, fantastic. Please try to find out if they're willing to help with the campaign. 2 indicates likely support. Our goal is to shift people in the 2 column into the 1 column. Here's where you could have a deeper conversation with a like-minded person who might be concerned about things like risk or the broader implications for institutional governance. 3 indicates someone who's undecided. We aim to persuade undecided colleagues that our resolution has many merits. In other words, to shift undecideds into likely supporters. Again, you may have some very interesting conversations with these people. Finally, 4 indicates an opponent of the resolution who won't vote for it. We do not need to win over these voters to win the vote, and you should not attempt to do so. But we do want you to identify them so we don't bother them again. Here's some potential scenarios, a few examples of how nonviolent communication might play out regarding the MS4P resolution. I just wanted to put it out there that I'll be supporting the MS4P resolution to boycott and divest from the State of Israel. If you have any questions or thoughts about it, I'd be happy to talk. Scenario 1. Yay, you found a 1. Please try to activate them into helping with the campaign. Please do not gloat or commiserate in public, as tempting as it may be. We'll celebrate when we've won, and no one has been doxxed, fired, or deported. Discipline keeps us all safe. Scenario 2. You found a 2. Fantastic. Thank them for their principled support and ask them to share their thoughts and concerns in more detail. You now have an opportunity to listen without interrupting or thinking about how to respond. You'll have some of the best conversations with these people. Taking supporters with misgivings seriously will make our campaign better. If we can learn from their concerns and take them into account as we proceed, we'll likely win them over. Please pass on what they have to say. Scenario 3. The person is undecided and wants to talk about it some more. The aim here is to persuade them that there are strong merits to the resolution. You don't have to get them to support it outright. This is where nonviolent communication is useful. Ask them to elaborate on their thought process and listen carefully and ask questions. What are the main concerns they're motivated by? When you respond, remember the 4 steps: the factual basis for your support, your emotional response to what they said, then connect that emotion to a generalizable need, and finally make a specific, actionable request related to that need. Here's an example. They might say, I think it's a well-intentioned resolution and an important problem, but I don't think boycotting the state is the best way to support Palestine. It seems counter to the spirit of scholarship. Wouldn't it be better to offer a scholarship to a student from Gaza? You. Could you say more about what you find important in the spirit of scholarship that this resolution doesn't address? Them. Well, music scholarship is about building bridges. Back to you. All of those are important concerns. In other words, validate them. When you say that you find a boycott counter to the spirit of music scholarship, I feel very worried and fearful. That's where you elicit emotional response. Because scholarship is under attack right now in ways that make it difficult to see how the spirit of scholarship is being upheld in many places. But I also worry that if the resolution doesn't pass, everyone in SEM who identifies with the people of Gaza, because they're Palestinian, Arab, or Muslim, people who have experience with genocide because they're non-Zionist Jews, or indigenous, or Cambodian, or Rwandan, or work with them, and people who daily deal with the prospect of ethnic cleansing because they're living with the threat of deportation under Trump. In other words, that's where you provide factual basis for your support. All of these people will see that SEM is willing to go on without them, and that there's a threat to the spirit of music scholarship that I worry will hollow out SEM and call into question the ethical legitimacy of all our scholarship. That's where you connect the emotion to a general need. Would you be willing to talk to someone from one of these communities who supports the resolution? In other words, close with a specific actionable request related to the need. Then whatever they say, you want to keep the door open to further conversation. And in the vein of the hypothetical scenario above, where arguments are taken seriously and treated both as genuine emotional needs and grounded in facts. Treat them as individuals instead of means to an end. Listen to them and explain your concerns with respect. Let's go on to scenario 4. This person is undecided and doesn't feel safe talking about it in public. Respect their decision and direct them to our website FAQs page and email address. We'll circle back to them after the conference, privately. Scenario 5. This person opposes the resolution in a polite and confident manner. Thank them for listening to you and respect their choice. Scenario 6. The person opposes the resolution politely but indicates that they're not fully in control of their emotions. For example, they might say that they feel unsafe and that the resolution will make them unwelcome at SEM. They might say that the resolution only proves how marginal another group of people is, non-Palestinians. Their body language may be agitated and angry or fearful. This is where nonviolent communication is useful. First, observe how they're responding. I can see that you're afraid. And reassure them that you don't want them to feel under attack. Second, calmly identify your emotional response to their emotional response. I'm feeling frightened myself because if someone accuses me of being anti-Semitic because I support this resolution, I could be fired or doxxed or deported. Third, identify the factual basis for your response. Name some academic critics of Israel who have been fired, doxxed, or deported. 4. Connect your emotion to a general need. In order to feel safe at SEM myself, I need to feel that my colleagues can hear what I'm saying without interpreting it as an attack. And finally, 5. Make a specific, actionable request related to this need. Would you be able to acknowledge that I support the resolution in good faith and for valid reasons, even if you don't agree? If they can do this, thank them for their courage and trust, and respect their choice. If they can't, they're not safe to be around. Politely disengage as quickly as you can, and mark them as a 4 so that others don't engage with them in the future. If they escalate, start shouting, or make it difficult for you to leave, call hotel security. Scenario 7. The person opposes the resolution in an aggressive and confrontational manner. This is where nonviolent communication is not going to work. What is needed here is de-escalation and maybe even reporting to hotel security. If someone at SEM starts shouting accusations at you or corners you or follows you around despite being asked to stop, that's harassment, and you should report the incident to hotel security. A grievance against them should also be filed through SEM's official process. While you're engaging with them, though, we encourage you to gently and firmly put your hands out without touching them and maintain an arm's length distance between you. Look them in the eyes and tell them calmly and quietly that you don't want to fight with them, and please could they lower their voice, give you space, stop threatening you. Get away as soon as you can and report them. If you see someone doing this to someone else, walk up and ask the person trying to maintain a distance if they're okay. Stay there and witness quietly until the aggressor leaves. If necessary, send someone else to get hotel security.